Hare Krishna, and welcome to our regular presentation, Monday to Friday, Bhagavatam for the independently thoughtful. Even if you're not so independently thoughtful, you can still attend. And we are on the 7th canto, 3rd chapter. And today we start from the last two verses of the chapter. If you have been with us, you know we are discussing about the austerities of Hiranyakasipu. Finally, Lord Brahma himself had to come in front of him. And Hiranyakasipu just offered so many prayers to Brahma, practically identifying him as the supreme being. And then he started asking his blessing. He wanted the blessing to be immortal. And so he asked a lot of conditions. Don't be killed from an animal. Don't be killed from any of the beings that Brahma created, and so on. So we are on text 37, 38. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vyasubir Vasumadvirva Surasura Mahoragai. Abratidvandvatam yuddhe aika pratpatyam shadehinam sarvesham lokapalanam mahimanam yatatmanaha tapoyoga prabhavanam yanarishati karichit. Translation. Hiranyakasipu speaking to Lord Brahma. Grant me that I not meet death from any entity, living or non-living. Grant me further that I not be killed by any demigod or demon or by any great snake from the lower planets. Since no one can kill you in the battlefield, you have no competitor. Therefore, grant me the benediction that I too may have no rival. Give me sole lordship over all the living entities and presiding deities, and give me all the glories obtained by that position. Furthermore, give me all the mystic powers attained by long austerities and the practice of yoga, for this cannot be lost at any time. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, Lord Brahma obtained his supreme position due to long austerities and penances, mystic yoga, meditation, and so on. Hiranyakasipu wanted a similar position. The ordinary powers achieved by mystic yoga, austerities, and other processes are sometimes vanquished, but the powers obtained by the mercy of the Lord are never vanquished. Hiranyakasipu, therefore, wanted a benediction that would never be vanquished. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purpose of the 7th canto, 3rd chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Hiranyakasipu's Plan to Become Immortal. Now, a short comment on the different genesis of the austerities of Brahma and the austerity of Hiranyakasipu is described in detail in 2nd canto, the 3rd canto, how Brahma, he was born from the lotus flower stemming from the navel of Garbhodakasha Vishnu, the second of the Purusha avatars. Garbhodakasha Vishnu enter in each universe. With him, all the living entities come. And then Brahma wanted to find the source of this lotus flower of himself. There was nothing. He couldn't find it with his efforts. He couldn't find him. Even he went down to the lotus flower, he couldn't find an end. So then he sat in meditation, and Krishna informed him, tapa, do austerity. And the acharyas, including Srila Prabhupada, explained this was an instruction of the internal energy. This was the devotional instruction for Brahma. And of course, he was born to do this service of recreating the universe and assigning different bodies to different living entities from the mentalities and karma that they had accumulated in previous creations. So it was a devotional service. Now, Hiranyakasipu was not like that. There was not instruction by the Lord. Of course, we know it's a Leela, so after everything is said and done, It was a Leela of the Lord. It was the direction of the Lord. But in the chronicle of the pastime, Hiranyakashipu just decides, I want to do this because I want to become immortal. I want to usurp the place of Brahma. And so Brahma is the most elevated person in this universe. So he did these austerities, and now he's asking all these kind of blessings. So let's go for the next chapter, see what Brahma replies, see what next. Chapter 4, Hiranyakashipu terrorizes the universe. Can you put one less the fan, please? So Srila Prabhupada gives a summary, so we know what we can expect. This chapter fully describes how Hiranyakashipu obtained power from Lord Brahma and misused it by harassing all the living entities within this universe. By severe austerity, Hiranyakashipu satisfied Lord Brahma and obtained the benedictions he desired. After he received these benedictions, his body, which had been almost entirely consumed, was revived with full beauty and a luster like gold. Nonetheless, he continued to be envious of Lord Vishnu, unable to forget Lord Vishnu's having killed his brother. Hiranyakashipu conquered everyone in the 10 directions and the 3 worlds and brought all living entities, both demigods and asuras, under his control. Becoming the master of all places, including the residents of Indra, whom he had driven out, he began enjoying life in great luxury and thus became mad. All the demigods but Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva came under his control and began serving him. But despite all his material power, he was dissatisfied because he was always puffed up, proud of transgressing the Vedic regulations. All the Brahmanas were dissatisfied with him and they cursed him with determination. Eventually, all the living entities within the universe, represented by the demigods and sages, prayed to the Supreme Lord for relief from Hiranyakashipu's rule. Lord Vishnu informed the demigods that they and the other living entities would be saved from the fearful conditions created by Hiranyakashipu. Since Hiranyakashipu was the oppressor of all the demigods, the followers of the Vedas, the cows, the Brahmanas, and the religious, saintly persons. And since he was envious of the Supreme Lord, he would naturally be killed very soon. Hiranyakashipu's last exploit would be to torment his own son Prahlad, who was a Mahabhagavat, an exalted Vaishnava. Then his life would end. When the demigods were thus reassured by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everyone was satisfied, knowing that the miseries inflicted upon them by Hiranyakashipu would come to an end. Finally, Narada Muni describes the characteristics of Prahlad Maharaj, the son of Hiranyakashipu, and describes how his father envied his own qualified son. In this way, the chapter ends. Okay, so it seems an action-packed chapter, which will culminate with the description of Prahlad Maharaj. So without further ado, let's dive. Text number 1. Again, Narada Muni is talking to Yudhishthira Maharaj. The whole discussion started when everybody at the Rajasuya Yagya observed Shishupala being killed by the Sudarshan Chakra and merged into Krishna's body. So people were wondering, he was such an offender, this Shishupala, how could it get this kind of liberation? So Yudhishthira asked Narada, and Narada is telling this whole story, starting from telling them about the story of the Jaya and Vijaya being cursed and coming down as demons.
I was thinking of the previous verse, how there is this tendency, right? When demoniac people are getting stronger and stronger and richer and richer and more popular, and they keep winning elections, etc. But there is an end. There is an end to that. It needs to, like they say in South Indian language, papat kada tumbeku. It's like an analogy that the pot of sin has to overflow. Then only the Lord will interfere, like that. So I was thinking how sometimes there is an element of patience that we need when we are waiting for the injustice to be corrected. It takes time. Krishna sometimes takes time. Even Mahabharat, Kurukshetra, he took 13 years to get everybody together and to arrange things and to glorify the devotees.
Yeah, Krishna has his own timings.
Yeah.
We can't dictate to the Lord that, okay, you have to make me happy now, right now. You got to make all my problems go away right now. That's not a devotional attitude. But we should know that the Lord is aware of our troubles, is aware of and sometimes he may have arranged himself these troubles to get us a little bit humble, to get us open up for spiritual knowledge, and just for us to understand that this world is not a place for lordship, control, and enjoyment, which was Hiranyakasipu's attempt. He wanted to control and exploit and enjoy everybody, including the devatas.
And it's interesting how he was not satisfied.
Yes.
And he will never be satisfied. Even if he became God, he will not be satisfied. He cannot become God because that position is already taken.
So we start number one.
Number one. Shri Narada Vacha Evam Ritta Shatadritir Hiranyakashipuratha Pradatta Tapasa Prito Varam Stasya Sudurlaban. Narad Muni continued. Lord Brahma was very much satisfied by Hiranyakashipu's austerities, which were difficult to perform. Therefore, when solicited for benedictions, he indeed granted them, although they were rarely to be achieved. Shri Brahma Vacha Tate me durlabha pumsham yan vrinesha varan mama yan vrinishe varan mama tathapi vitaram yanga varan yadyapi durlaban. Lord Brahma said, O Hiranyakashipu, these benedictions for which you have asked are very difficult to obtain for most men. Nonetheless, O my son, I shall grant you them, although they are generally not available. Purport. Material benedictions are not always exactly worthy of being called benedictions. If one possesses more and more, a benediction itself may become a curse. For just as achieving material opulence in this world requires great strength and endeavor, maintaining it also requires great endeavor. Lord Brahma informed Hiranyakashipu that although he was ready to offer him whatever he had asked, the result of benedictions would be very difficult for Hiranyakashipu to maintain. Nonetheless, since Brahma had promised, he wanted to grant all benedictions asked. The word durlabhan indicates that one should not take benedictions one cannot enjoy peacefully. Wow! I'm very amazed by this point. Can you give a practical example of that in our lives? Maybe wealth. Sometimes we wonder why Krishna is not giving us more money. Is it because we're not?
No, it could be, I mean, like for instance, political power, political influence. There is always, say, some hundreds and thousands of politicians in the world say they are now in the opposition and they try to become the prime minister. But then when they become the prime minister, it becomes very difficult to manage. Like in Italy, last year there was an election and one politician, Giorgia Meloni, won the elections, got most votes, and she became the prime minister. But while she was quite successful as an opposition politician, because opposition simply means that you criticize the government. Whatever they do, they say, oh, we could do better, oh, we could do better, oh, we could better. But then now that she is the prime minister, she's not doing much better. For instance, one issue that she had been, this is just an example, practical example, since you asked me. one issue. Many of you know Italy is in the south of Mediterranean Sea, and so it's very exposed to all these migrants from who are escaping from different miserable conditions in African countries. So this Meloni and other right-wing politicians for years have been saying, no, we need to stop all these migrants from coming. It's why the government doesn't solve this, that. But now that she's on power, actually, as far as I understand, the migrants double or triple. So it's easy to do to be an opposition and say, oh, this is we could fix it, But then when you go up, it's not so easy. So this is one example in the sense that certainly one can pray, oh, I want the blessing to become a prime minister, but then you cannot enjoy. First of all, you're always under pressure, you're always under criticism, and now you got to perform things which before you were just saying we could do better, but now you have to do better, and it's not always.
Oh my God!
So obviously, the devotee. These are kind of relative terminology because the devotee wants blessings that more and more service. Therefore, the devotee accepts some anxiety in devotional service. It's not really trying. Here we are talking about blessings, in one sense, relative blessings, of course. So, but definitely something that creates more problem that you have. It's not a very intelligent policy. Okay, can we go next? Tatu jagama bhagavan hamoganu vibhu ujito suravarina stuyamanha prajeshwarai. Then Lord Brahma, who was infallible benedictions, departed, being worshipped by the best of the demons, Hiranyakasipu, and being praised by great sages and saintly persons. Okay, so Brahma leaves the scene. He did what he needed to do. Now let's see what Hiranyakasipu, now empowered by Brahma's blessings. Evam labdhavaro dhaityo bhibhrad dima mayam vapu bhagavatya karodhisham Bhratur Bhadam Anusmaram. The demon Hiranyakasipu, having thus been blessed by Lord Brahma and having acquired a lustrous golden body, continued to remember the death of his brother and therefore be envious of Lord Vishnu. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Demoniac person, in spite of acquiring all the opulence possible to obtain in this universe, continues to be envious of the Supreme Personality of God. Now, even in practical dealings, you could see he obtained whatever he wanted, but his mind was still disturbed by the envy of Lord Vishnu and by the killing of his brother. So he was still living in the past. This brought him a lot of bitterness, a lot of resentment, a lot of hatred. So he wasn't. It's like a cancer growing inside, or it's like some insect biting constantly. It's like you maybe imagine the best bedrooms, the best, softest mattress, but if there are mosquitoes in the room that they bite you, you can't sleep, and you become very disturbed. So similarly, Hiranyakasipu, although now he has a golden, effulgent body, beautiful, powerful. We heard that he will not be even affected by thunderbolts. Imagine what kind of body. It's not just a normal body of flesh and bones. It's like a special body. And he has so much power and so much money and so much influence, but it's still the knowing sense of envy, this knowing sense of failure that, okay, couldn't protect the brother, because not accepting that the Brahmana, the brother was a demon and he got killed. He did something horrendous. He put the whole planet Earth under the water of Garbhodaka ocean. So definitely it is a huge crime. So people who are criminal, they need to punish them. And people need to accept either their brothers or sisters or fathers or mothers or sons. People who are honest accept, yes, my brother was a criminal. And the Lord, for the uplift, or for the upkeep, not even the upliftment, for the upkeep of the universe, had to kill him. So an honest person will agree, yeah, he needed to be killed. It was a big pain in the neck of the universe. But no, he is not accepting. He feels like there was some injustice. There is no injustice. There is no injustice. In fact, we see in the third canto how the battle was very fair. At one point, like the Hiranyaksha even lost his mace, and the Varaha waited for him to pick it up. So it was a very fair fight. And not only the fight was fair, but Hiranyakashipu was a great criminal. He had endangered the whole Loka planet or Bhu Mandala surface. So obviously it needed to be punishment. So it's an illusion to think, oh, my brother. He was a criminal.
You know, when there was some movie I was seeing, and in that movie there was like this bad guys. They were going and harassing all the villagers and killing them. They burned the cow shed. You know, they didn't care about the villagers at all. And then I was thinking, this is exactly like that kind of mentality of Hiranyakashipu, you know, not caring about the people. They just want power because they want to enjoy. Whereas a good leader like Parikshit Maharaj, they see a bull being tortured, you know, and then he comes and he confronts. Whereas the demoniac people, they burn cows and bulls and they don't care. So this is a difference between a good leadership. A good leader doesn't like come for the sake of position. Okay. There's a lot of verses. Should I do it?
3 verses. You want me to do? Whatever you want.
There's a question.
Okay.
He was a big pain in the neck of the universe. Lol, I love the terminology.
Not to use more
vulgar words.
Vulgar expressions. I mean, imagine just Bhudevi. Imagine that's a great abuse of anybody. Okay, you want me to read or what? So text 5, 6, and 7. Savijitya disha sarva lokam shatrin mahasuraha devasura manushindra Gandharva garudoragan Siddha charana vidyadran Rishim pitrim patin manom Yaksha raksha pisachesham Prita bhuta patin api Sarva sattva patin jitva Asan Aniya Vishwajit Jahara Lokapala Namstan Anisa Hatejasa. Hiranyakashipu became the conqueror of the entire universe. Indeed, the great demon conquered all the planets in the 3 worlds, upper, middle, and lower, including the planets of the human beings, the Gandharvas, the Garudas, the great serpents, the Siddhas, Charana, and Vidyadharas, the great saints, Yamaraj, the Manus, the Yakshas, the Rakshasas, the Pishachas, and their masters, and the masters of the ghosts and Bhutas. He defeated the rulers of all the other planets where there are living entities and brought them under his control. Conquering the abode of all, he seized his power, he seized their power and influence. Purport, the word Garuda in this verse indicates that there are planets of great births like Garuda. Similarly, the word Uraga indicates there are planets of enormous serpents. Such a description of various planets of the universe may challenge modern scientists who think that all planets by this earth are vacant. The scientists claim to have launched excursions to the moon, where they have found no living entities, but only big craters full of dust and stone. Although, in fact, the moon is so brilliant that it acts like the sun in illuminating the entire universe. Of course, it is not possible to convince modern scientists of the Vedic information about the universe. Nonetheless, we are not very much impressed by the words of scientists who say that all other planets are vacant, that only the Earth is full of living entities. Now, recently, because India announced the soft landing of its machine on the moon, this topic of, oh, did they go to the moon, did not go to the moon, can they go to the moon, or what aspects of the moon is accessible to them, came back. The basic contention between Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas in the Vedic literature is that they accept the Vedic version. And the Vedic version is that different planets are homes to different living beings. We may or may not perceive them, we may or may not have access to them with these senses or with our machinery, but the moon is considered a higher planet. And I remember when I joined the movement, I felt very inspired by the descriptions of the devotees of the moon, because they were saying, look, the stones they brought from the moon, allegedly, they're just normal stones. They don't reflect any light, but the moon reflects the light. So how is it possible that these stones are what the moon is made of? That dust and that and those stones, when they brought it here, they still have those pieces of stones. They don't reflect anything. No? So how come when they're very close, very high in the sky, they start reflecting? So many things. Anyway, I'm not going to discuss if they went to the moon or they didn't go to the moon, but certainly the scientists with their machineries don't have access to, at the very least, they don't have access to this higher dimension of the moon as a higher planet. That's certain. So at one point, in another purpose, Srila Prabhupada explained, look, we may believe in the scientists, we may believe in the Vedas, we have to believe in somebody. In any case, even scientists, we don't have proofs. And there are I was studying this before more intensely. Now I kind of lost my interest very much. But I remember reading a lot of information in books that explain how, yeah, there are so many issues with this idea that they went to the moon and so on and so forth. But in any case, we need to choose to have faith either in the Vedic revelation or in the things that some scientists, some researchers, some technologists say, because we don't have access to either.
Right.
But in any case, the two things are not ultimately mutually exclusive, because, okay, you go to the moon, but you access which part of the moon? Here there is a
comment.
I was watching a podcast recently whereby the researcher from USA said all ancient non-Abrahamic culture in the past were certainly more advanced and believed in other beings and on other planetary systems. He went as far as to say that many of the technologies used to build the great structures in the world have come about due to these other more advanced beings from other planets. Yes, this is I would say, a theory and approach and understanding which has been around since a long time, because even very ancient structures, architectonic structures, are still a puzzle for the modern builders. Yeah, so for us, for the followers of Vedic wisdom, is not a big deal, because to understand, because there were subtle information about Vimanas. Vedas, the Bhagavata talks about Vimanas. In fact, Brahma's swan, it's explained that it's not a living being, it's not a real swan, it's like a machine made in the shape of a swan. So traditionally, those who follow Vedic culture, they are accustomed to this description of interaction between different planetary inhabitants. It's very common. I mean, Even the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I spoke this science of yoga to the king of the sun, and so on. So for Vedic followers, understanding that there is interaction between different planetary residents, it's just normal. It happens all the time. Okay? To read or want me to read? For me to read. 8. Devodhyana Shriya Jushtam Adyaste Smati Prishtapam Mahindra Bhavanam Sakshan Nirmitam Vishvakarmana Trailokya Lakshmyayatanam Adhyuvasa Kilardimat. Hiranyakasipu, who possessed all opulence, began residing in heaven with its famous Nandana garden, which is enjoyed by the demigods. In fact, he resided in the most opulent palace of Indra, the king of heaven. The palace had been directly constructed. Can you move this? By the demigod architect Vishwakarma. It was as beautifully made as if the goddess of fortune of the entire universe resided there. So this is a common mechanics or dynamics, is that when people conquer, the conquerors go and sit in the best palaces, the best facilities. We have seen during the Second World War when, say, Germany conquered France, and then all their officers stayed in the best castles, the best palaces of Paris. So it's normal. When you conquer a place, then you try to enjoy the best that the conquered place offers. That's like the natural psychology. Okay. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. What to do. I don't want to just depend on the what.
Okay.
From this description, it appears that all the heavenly planets of the upper planetary system are thousands. Sorry for the interruption. From this description, it appears that all the heavenly planets of the upper planetary system are thousands upon thousands of times more opulent than the lower planetary systems in which we live. Vishwakarma, the famous heavenly architect, is known as the constructor of many wonderful buildings in the upper planets, where there are not only beautiful buildings, but also many opulent gardens and parks, which are described as Nandana Devodhyana, gardens quite fit to be enjoyed by the demigods. This description of the upper planetary system and its opulences is to be understood from authoritative scriptures like the Vedic literatures. Telescopes and the other imperfect instruments of scientists are inadequate for evaluating the upper planetary system. Although such instruments are needed because the vision of the so-called scientists is imperfect, the instruments themselves are also imperfect. Therefore, the upper planets cannot be appraised by imperfect men using imperfect man-made instruments. Direct information received from the Vedic literature, however, is perfect. We therefore cannot accept the statement that there are no opulent residences on planets other than this Earth. So similar concept. There is a clash in some case between what the materialistic people believe and what the Vedic literature explains. So the materialistic people seem to believe that planets like Moon or Mars are just a vestige of dust and deserts. But the Vedic literature explains that there are different dimensions, there are different aspects which are not available to the senses or to the amplified senses in the form of telescopes and other things. Okay.
Again.
4 verses together. Yatra vidruma sopa nama hamara katabuva yatra sphatika kudyani Vaidurya Stamba Panktaya.
यत्र चित्रवितानानि पद्मारागासनानि च पायाफेन निभासाया मुक्तदामा परिचादः कुजाब्धिर्नूपुरैर्देवा शब्दयन्त्रायितस्तथा रत्नस्थालीषु पश्यन्ति सुन्दरं मुखाम् तस्मिन् महेन्द्र भवने महाबलो महामना निर्जितलोक एकरात् रेमे भिवन्त्याङ्घ्रियुगा सुरायुगा सुराब्धिः प्रतापैर्ऊर्जितचण्डशासनः. The steps of King Indra's residence were made of coral. The floor was bedecked with invaluable emeralds. The walls were of crystal and columns of Vaidurya stone. The wonderful canopies were beautifully decorated. The seats were bedecked with rubies, and the silk bedding, as white as foam, was decorated with pearls. The ladies of the palace, who were blessed with beautiful teeth and the most wonderfully beautiful faces, walked here and there in the palace, their ankle bells tinkling melodiously, and saw their own beautiful reflections in the gems. The demigods, however, being very much oppressed, had to bow down and offer obeisance at the feet of Hiranyakasipu, who had chastised the demigods very severely and for no reason. Thus, Hiranyakasipu lived in the palace and severely ruled everyone. Oh my God, this is typical for the a narcissistic person that secretly, severely, for no reason, that he chastised the demigods. Also, there was another purport I thought is very relevant for the narcissism type of leadership. To look.
Should I read the purport? Purport, Hiranyakashipu was so powerful that in the heavenly planets that all the demigods, except Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, were forced to engage in his service. Indeed, they were afraid of being severely punished if they disobeyed him. Srila Vishnu Chakravarti has compared Hiranyakashipu to Maharaj Vena, who was also atheistic and scornful of the ritualistic ceremonies mentioned in the Vedas. Yet Maharaj Vena was afraid of some of the great sages such as Bhrigu, whereas Hiranyakashipu ruled in such a way that everyone feared him but Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva. Hiranyakashipu was so alert against being burned to ashes by the anger of great sages like Bhrigu that by dint of austerity surpassed their power and placed even them under his subordination. It appears that even in the higher planetary system to which people are promoted by pious activities, disturbances are created by asuras like Hiranyakashipu. No one in the three worlds can live in peace and prosperity without disturbance.
Also, I thought a very important point came here about the difference between Vena and Hiranyakashipu. In one sense, when somebody is sinful and they just, but they're still like afraid of Bhrigu or other people. But then some kind of like narcissistic type of people are like not even afraid of their own guru or their own other people. They don't care. They think they are so great. You know, like Daksha was similar, like he didn't care about Lord Shiva. And so anyway, I'm trying to like make this distinction between people who are like bad in one sense, but then they're afraid of some guru or something. But then these kind of people like Hiranyakashipu and all, they're like not even afraid of Bhrigu and they're controlling even them. But it doesn't mean that there is no consequence.
Yeah, and this we should, I think, take it at heart, this last instruction. No one in the three worlds, can you put it back? Can live in peace and prosperity without disturbance. In other words, yes, Srila Prabhupada often said that devotees could go in the village side and have a few cows, have some land, and that's a peaceful life. Yes, it's peaceful, much better than performing the rat race in big megalopolis full of people, full of smog, can't even breathe nice air, and there is traffic, and there is noise all day, all night, and there are so many dangers and so on. Yes, so a rural life, if one has the means of having a farm, obviously is much more peaceful. But we need to remember that old age, disease, death, and birth is everywhere. So, yeah, we may choose a more peaceful situation if that is a help for our devotional service. But we need to understand that it's not always, it's not a permanent situation. And let's remember, once Srila Prabhupada wrote to Jayapataka Maharaj how we want to have temples in the most congested part of the cities. Congested is a very negative word. Congested means there is traffic, there is chaos, there is a lot of very intense vibes. And you could see at the Gaudiya Math, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that was his policy. He did open very peaceful, say, ashram like in Nirdoya, here in Mayapur, in the rural environment and so on, very agricultural, very peaceful. At the same time, he also opened places in the middle, because obviously they're there to, the math is supposed to help people. Like if you go to Assam, Guwahati, the Gaudiya Math is right there in the market. It's the most busy place of the city. Right there in the middle is the Gaudiya Math. We have Kulavati, Devi.
No, it's not Kulavati, it's
Kushbu is another one. Okay, Kushbu has a hand up, so wants to say something. Okay.
Yes, Hare Krishna. I just want to ask this line about Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, second line, were forced to engage in his service. So I'm not able to understand it. So can you please explain?
Well, it says that all the demigods besides Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva was engaged in the service. You can see it's in the screen. All the demigods except Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu. So everybody else, Indra, Yamaraj, Varuna, these are very, very powerful, Vayu, but not Brahma and not Vishnu and not Shiva. Is that more clear now?
Yes, but I'm just confused because Brahma is he is able to just ask him that what you want. So it's not engaging like asking that, okay, what you want and I'm giving you.
Yeah, he was not engaged. Brahma was not engaged in his service.
But there is a difference between, so how Hiranyakasipu approached Brahma, he approached Brahma with respect. He approached Brahma with a lot of glorification, prayers, even frankly exaggerated prayers.
Yeah.
And he asked for blessing. So asking for blessing is different than imposing something. On the other demigods, he was very much imposing and ordering them around and also rebuking them, sometimes without reason, just because he felt like.
Which was that verse?
Which one?
The one rebuking them without reason.
One or two verses before.
Snehavati, that's a very good verse. That I don't know which verse. I'll find it. Number.
Mataji, when I'll listen the whole class, then I'll find it out and put it there.
Okay. Because that verse is important that he.
Yeah, this is 9:12.
Okay, 12. Okay.
He chastised the demigods very severely and for no reason. Sometimes we see this in certain unhealthy personality, pathological personality. We see they just want to impose themselves, impose their will, impose their control, and show that control. They have some sort of compensation that they need psychologically. It's not enough, even if they don't. And there is some anger, there's some like
narcissistic wound, we call it.
There's some anger And so people are just this type of people, if they have power, they, without reason, without any reasonable motive, they just harass people just to kind of show the power, express the power. That's a kind of unhealthy pleasure.
It's like a unhealthy way of trying to cure their disease, but it's only going to increase, because we all have material disease in this world, and this is a kind of disease to try to oppress people and try to gain some sort of control because you are feeling insecure and you're trying to compensate that.
Okay, so text 13. Put text 13. Tamangamata madunoruno gandina vivrittatam rakshamashishadhishnyapah upasato payana pani birvina trivistapo yoga baloja sampadam. Oh, my dear king, this is Narada Muni talking to Maharaj Yudhishthira. Hiranyakasipu was always drunk on strong smelling wines and liquors, and therefore his coppery eyes were always rolling. Nonetheless, because he had powerfully executed great austerity in mystic yoga, although he was abominable, all but the three principal demigods, or Brahma, or Shiva, or Vishnu, personally worshipped him to please him by bringing him various presentations with their own hands. Purport by Srila Prabhupada in the Skanda Purana, there is this description. Upayanam dadu sarve vina devam hiranyakaha. Hiranyakasipu was so powerful that everyone but the three principal demigods, namely Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, engaged in his service. Madhvacharya says, Aditya Vasavo Rudras Trivida Isurayataha. There are three kinds of demigods, the Adityas, the Vasus, and the Rudras. Beneath whom are the other demigods. Like the Marut is Sadyas, Marutas Chaiva Vishvicha Sadyas Chaiva Tadyataha. Therefore, all the demigods are called Tri Pishtapa, and the same word Tri apply to Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu. So here another important aspect, he was always intoxicated. His eyes were rolling, so he was not even, we could say, respectable, because somebody who is always drunk, they don't feel to respect. But because he had that great power of his mystic opulence, he could afford to be completely drunk all day, strong smelling wines, liquors, and still be in charge.
This is a typical misuse of his power, right? That's what Brahma had warned him. I'm giving you this, but I don't know if you can maintain it. By becoming intoxicated, he's losing his senses even more and more.
Next, 14. Jagur Mahindra Sanam Mujas Stitam Vishvavasustum Burumasmanadhaya Dharva Siddha Rishayastu Vanmuhur Vidyadarash Chapsarasas Chapandava. O Maharaj Yudhishthira descended of Pandu, by dint of his personal power, Hiranyakasipu, being situated on the throne of King Indra, controlled the inhabitants of all the other planets. The two Gandharvas, Vishvavasu and Tumburu, I myself and the Vidyadharas, Apsaras and sages, all offer prayers to him again and again just to glorify him. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, the Asuras sometimes become so powerful they can engage even Narada Muni and senior devotees in their service. This does not mean that Narada was subordinate to Hiranyakasipu. Sometimes, however, it so happens in this material world that great personalities, even great devotees, can also be controlled by the Asuras. So this is like an autobiographical revelation by Narada Muni. He's talking to Yudhishthira and say, look, He was sitting there in Indraloka, Vishvavasu Tumburu, to Gandharvas, and the Vidyadharas, the Apsaras, and the sages, and myself, Narada Muni, were all offering prayers, were all glorifying him. Obviously, Narada Muni has a spiritual body, so, and he can move around freely, can move to the material world, to the spiritual world, but somehow, maybe out of humility or out of solidarity, or no,
Peace,
just
harmony.
peace, harmony, just not to create
Yeah.
trouble or whatever. Somehow he was going along with
Yeah.
this. Also, I mean, he knows past, present, and future, so he knows this is all temporary. It's
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
a drama in one sense. Okay, this guy completely demonic, completely intoxicated, is sitting there and he sees all the sage, even the sages were there glorifying him. And Srila Prabhupada said, yes, sometimes there are situations in which even great devotee can be controlled by the asuras. Sometimes there are situations in this world, just like sometimes there is cold, sometimes there is too much heat, and sometimes there is cold, and sometimes there are restrictions. I mean, Srila Prabhupada, for instance, tried to come into Singapore, but he couldn't get a visa. I think he was stuck for some time, or anyway, I think Srila Prabhupada couldn't enter in Singapore, he couldn't get the visa. And I think Govinda Maharaj also got stuck in the Singapore airport, they won't give him the visa. So we need to sometimes accept that this Asura have certain jurisdictional powers. And sometimes the devotees might suffer due to that. I don't remember exactly what happened with Srila Prabhupada in Singapore, but sometimes there are issues with visas, there are issues with staying, and this is the world.
What's noteworthy is that Tumburu and Narada and everybody were there, right? And Narada was witnessing this atrocity, but he later on becomes a very important emissary or whatever you call it. He's going to take care of Kayadu because he actually, sees the situation, he understands it. So sometimes even if we are part of, say, an abusive leadership cycle, we may not be able to do anything in the moment, but later on we may be able to create something to protect. And that's exactly what Narada did. With this we can write in our narcissism booklet in this part.
Want to go next?
Yeah. Snehavati, please make a point of this Narada Muni becoming the saving grace later. Sa eva varna shramabhi kratubhir bhuri dakshinai yamano havir bhagan agrahit svena tejasa. Being worshipped by sacrifices offered with great gifts by those who strictly follow the principles of Varna and Ashram, Hiranyakasipu, instead of offering shares to the instead of offering shares of the oblations to the demigod, accepted them himself. What does that mean? What does it mean he accepted? What did he do? It's not the grains and the ghee that he accepted.
Well, okay, the ritualistic performance, kratubihi, okay? They're offered, right, in a certain ritualistic performance, and agrahit means he usurped, he took away with his own prowess. In other words, what happened when people worship through the Vedas? Like for instance, we put some ghee and some grain, but that becomes transferred in the higher planets. It's like an exchange, like you give $1, you get 80 rupees. So you give, say, 1 kilo of rice or 1 kilo of ghee, and this transforms into something much bigger because there are certain channels, certain ways in which the yagya gets transferred. But somehow Hiranyakasipu controlled those channels.
And what did he do? What he'll do with the offerings?
And will probably increase his own power, his own
Oh.
opulence. He will just steal this thing. Agrahit means no, he captured, he took these things.
Totally.
Somehow he had this power even on a subtle level. Obviously, his power is not just gross, meaning like some nuclear weapons or something. These demigods are very, very powerful, but he was more powerful than them. He had his own agents, or himself through his mystic power, he was just controlling all these channels. And although people were continuing doing this sacrifice, he would just say, no, this is for me, and they will use it for himself. Just like taxation. One, you go, you bring something in another place, and
You usurp it and not give the.
not only usurp, but there is a taxation, right? And sometimes there is even confiscation.
Yeah.
I've seen, if you travel, you see sometimes people bring stuff, and then the customs say, hey, you cannot bring this stuff inside the country. So once I was traveling by train from Thailand to Malaysia, and there were a couple of Buddhist monks who had a box full of this Buddhist monk clothes, this beige, and apparently they were bringing to Malaysia for some Buddhist and selling. It's like sometimes devotees take saris or dhotis to the West for selling. So it seems that they were doing the same. And I remember at one point, the custom people came from Malaysia. They were entering Malaysia from Thailand. So the custom people, look, what do you have here? So they opened the box. They saw all this new. They were not his own, obviously, they were not his own for personal use, but like monk robes, like little silky like that. And he told them, look, you're going to sell it, you're going to make money, you got to pay. So they charged him, I don't remember exactly how much, 1,500 bahts. But I remember that the Buddhist monks were quite upset. So imagine, and for certain things, they don't even allow. Means you say especially Malaysia is very strong with drugs, if you bring something, of course they go to jail, but I'm just saying certain thing, they just get confiscated.
Yeah.
Once I remember in America, there was one guy at the customs, he had so many like artwork, like silver, and the guy was saying, what is all this stuff? You can't just bring it in. You can't just bring like this stuff. I say, no, but it's I don't know. I didn't hang around enough to understand what was the
Conclusion.
conclusion. No. Because at the time, I remember, at the time I was myself in anxiety because they said, no, of course I didn't have anything, but I had some sandwiches that they gave me in the previous temples. And they say very clearly, you cannot bring any food, anything eatable because they're afraid of contaminations, bacteria, whatever. So then I wanted to keep it because as a brahmachari, you're always hungry. And then I had this kind of sandwiches or something. And then when I saw, they asked me, go through the customs. So then at the last minute, I took everything and I threw it away.
Because they could have confiscated it or
Not thrown away themselves. I mean, obviously, that's not a big deal if they find it through sandwiches.
Right.
They don't make
Put you
a
in
big
jail.
deal. They don't put you in jail or anything. But they'll probably just take it and throw it. They say, no, you can't bring this in, finish. So Hiranyakasipu on a subtle level, on a more sophisticated level, basically confiscated all the yagi offering that was meant for everybody else. There was some comments.
No. I remember one time I was going through I was going to Finland. I was going to Mexico through Finland like that. And I was going Finnair. It was a cheap airline or something, not cheap, but they didn't want me to carry more luggage and whatever. And they were so harassing, and I had some extra kilos. So you know what I did? I actually took some of those like pants and everything, and I just stuck it to myself, like some kilos, and I just went back to check in again. And then later on, when I was about to board the flight, they again weighed my bag, and all those things that I was wearing during check-in, I just put extra on me, was back into that bag, and those people were so frustrated.
And then what they did?
Because I was trying to not pay
And then what they did?
like they chastised me, and then they made me carry that bag with me all the way. They
Yes.
didn't want to put it in the airplane. They didn't want to relieve my burden. Anyway, that was
Okay. Can we go next?
yeah. Akrishta pachatasya sit sapta dvivapati mahi tata kama dugha gavo nanastam nabhaha. As if in fear of Hiranyakasipu, the planet Earth, which consists of 7 islands, delivered food grains without being plowed. Does it resemble cows like the Surabhi of the spiritual world or the Kama Duga of heaven? The earth yielded sufficient food grains. The cows supplied abundant milk, and outer space was beautifully decorated with wonderful phenomena. Wasn't it supposed to be the opposite?
What?
Like cows have miscarriages
No,
or
but here, the cows is just an analogy. The earth was supplying freely,
oh my God.
it was supplying freely, just like the Surabhi cows, the Kamaduga cow of heaven gives freely. So what is that? In America, they made me eat my cook in front of the security guard at customs. I'm sure it wasn't poison. Ridiculous. Once entering New York, I had this Mahaprasad from Mayapur, these little gajas. And somehow the guy was smart, probably knew that all this. And somehow he just took by himself without asking, took one gaja and he just popped it in his mouth.
Really?
Yeah, he didn't tell anything.
Yeah. I used to have problems when I took deities because it was metal, Radha Govinda would carry, right? And they would open and then it will become a discussion amongst the security. Oh, look, so cute, and this and that. And
What is that?
Radha Krishna deity.
Achha.
Because in security, they will open and check it.
So here, apparently it's like as in fear. The word is
She says, I said, I hope the cookie was not poison. I was joking. So she said, I'm still here, but the experience made me feel poison towards them. Like they're so scared.
they're doing the jobs, sometimes so many strange things happen.
For me, the most scary experience of all, it was Mama's ashes. My mother-in-law's ashes were supposed to be brought, and we were trying so many ways. Some devotee told us, just pack it in some bag and put it here and there. They won't know, but this and that. Finally, we had to make a passport for the ashes, pot of ashes. We had to make a passport for it and finally bring, because that was my last desire for my mother-in-law, that I wanted her to be properly done. I wanted all the ashes and I wanted it merged in Ganga and everything. And it was such a strange experience. We had to get a passport for the ashes.
Oh.
That's racism. Yeah, that happens often.
You should read that. Otherwise people may not
Oh
know
yeah,
that you're
sorry.
talking.
I'm commenting upon Sujata's comment that they were only stopping brown people and doing this kind of things, eat cookie, drink the water. They made me also drink water sometimes to make sure that it was not some, I watched this is a good example of kind of Hiranyakasipu mentality. Some people, they actually make surgery. They put drugs inside and stitch it up and bring it across country and everything.
No, see, the point is that we have those customs, I don't know, I can't comment on them particularly, but they may have some profiling. Obviously, when they see somebody coming not dressed like, for instance, in Arabic, and they become a little bit more alert. And but sometimes they just do their jobs. Like one country which is very strict is Australia, because Australia being geographically separated is a big island, and so they're very vulnerable to bugs, to insects, and so therefore they have to be very careful. See, when you in India, you bring whatever, there is everything in the opposite of everything. They're not so, they don't care, one more bug, what would they do?
Yeah.
But in Australia, one bug may create a huge loss, economic loss, may destroy, who knows?
Why?
Because it's more vulnerable. It's an island, it's more isolated. They don't have all those, we could say,
Battling strategies or something.
yeah, that
Defense.
means that they don't have, there are certain things that they don't have. And so that those will be very,
Yeah, Indians are tough. She's saying that's very true. Very true.
I'm not talking about the Indians as Indians or the people of Australia as a human being. I'm saying that sometimes they're very afraid that you bring something that they will destroy harvests, the agriculture will bring something that the ecosystem, Australian ecosystem, don't have capacity.
Wow.
Once I was traveling with Jataka Maharaj, I was carrying one full bag full of japas. And they stopped me, because they saw all this wood. Finally, they were kind of anyway, we were staying just one day in that place. So next time we'll go on. So they kind of, okay, next time we'll fly out. Okay, go. But they could have, if they were strict, they could have taken all the japas because it's wood. You cannot bring wood.
Oh, God.
Because you never know what's inside the wood. Some bug, some you never know. But that time is okay. Tomorrow I have the ticket. Tomorrow we leave. So they just let us go. What's another chance?
But if Hiranyakasipu was enrolled, he will not let you go. Though the irony is the colonizers brought everything into India that destroyed the ecosystem.
Yeah,
Sorry, into
Australia.
Australia. Yeah, that's so true. Astrologically, India is ruled by planet Saturn. So that's the most resilient and tolerant of all the planets. So that's why India can literally absorb all sorts of things.
Should we go next?
Yeah.
Should we go next?
Ratnakarascha ratnaughams tatpatnyas chohur urmibhi sharasidhugrita kshaudra dadikshiramritodaka. By the flowing of their ways, the various oceans of the universe, along with their tributaries, the rivers, which are compared to their wives, supplied various kinds of gems and jewels for Hiranyakashipu's use. These oceans were the oceans of salt water, sugarcane, wine, clarified buttermilk, milk, yogurt, and sweet water. But isn't it like these people were supposed to rebel, but they're actually giving things to Hiranyakashipu? Is it like they're going to finish, isn't it like an auspicious omen?
What?
All this production and
To rebel, you need to have some power. I mean, look what happened in Palestine. I mean, Hamas had planned for a long time this attack on Israel. You cannot just attack like that. And now Israel is retaliating in a very, very heavy way. But to rebel, you need to have some power. You need to have some chance. I don't think these people had they didn't have any chance. It's just stronger.
oh my God.
Sometimes it's like that. The guy is stronger.
Some leaders who try to control their subordinates and with very strict thing, you cannot listen to any other authorities. You are a prostitute if you go and take shelter of another authority. It may appear like these people are more well-behaved and they are more submissive. They are producing more. They're serving you more than others who may be giving freedom. So it looked like this. It looked like they're giving you more submission, they're giving you more service initially, but then it's going to all fall apart. Right? Does it coincide with this analogy? Forced leadership.
I mean, there's a difference because if some leader says you have to serve me this, that, people still have some degree of free will. So they accept, okay, he's saying this, I accept. In this case, there's no free will. They cannot. It's just like sometimes, somebody, a power conquers another place, and the people just don't have any power. So I don't see the analogy as
Well,
very
like, I mean,
close.
can I bring up the
But
analogy of
definitely what
you?
you're saying, the analogy is this, the analogy you can use is this. Obviously, when people are oppressed, repressed, suppressed, and forced, definitely that in the long term, at one point, they will rebel. Which
Yeah.
is exactly what's happening in Israel,
Yeah,
those who
yeah.
who follow the thing. I mean, Israel as being disobeying international law, or the UN ordinances on how they should deal with the Palestine and so on. So they're being pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And then now there is the rebellion, and of course there's blood flowing in rivers of blood, both sides. So the analogy can be taken that, yeah, sometimes one can be very heavy, but you cannot be heavy forever. And by being very heavy, unjustly heavy, then you expose yourself to the vendetta, to the revenge of people you've been exploiting.
Can I give a couple of examples of you, if you don't
Me.
mind? You as Sankirtan devotee, you shared with me two stories, right? You were, how many minutes you were allowed to sleep when during the Sankirtan book distribution?
That's different. I don't.
No, I'm just saying that you were not allowed to rest enough. And still you sold books in those time, but we cannot consider that as a success. Or you were obeying the orders of whatever the Sankirtan.
I think it's very different because, like the Sankirtan devotee, there was a culture. Okay, it was not an imposition of a particular devotee. That devotee was very sweet, was very nice. He was also part of the system, and the conception was that, okay, you sell books all morning, then you take prasad, and somehow this idea that, okay, you can only rest 5 minutes. And sometimes rest 5 minutes on a van, sitting there, it's cold, there's so many noises. So basically was sometime after this 5 minutes, you're more disturbed than if you didn't rest anything. But I don't see that like a Hiranyakasipu type of thing. It was a culture that, okay, push. Everybody was young devotee, even the leaders of the country. The leaders of the country means yatra. The yatra was more, maybe what, 10 years in the movement themselves. So they was not like demoniac. It was just kind of a fanaticism, it's exaggeration, pushing. So it's different. I didn't feel like he was against me. It's just a culture of really sometimes, and it was not everywhere. Like in Germany, they had a different system at the same time that the people could after lunch, they could take rest as much as they could, but as much as they wanted. They had time to read the books. It was a different
No,
leadership.
but you mentioned that even you as a personality type, which is a very strong type of personality, still you said back then you would listen to the seniors. It was not easy for you to like, not like you were saying, Varuna.
Again,
Indra.
it's a cult, but it's different because see, Varuna and Indra knew that this is a demon, knew that this is a terrible person who was exploiting the universe. For me, it was different. It was a culture that, okay, I accepted that they know better than me. I was, say, 18 years old, or just in the moment since 1 year or a little more. And okay, I accepted. It was not pleasant, but I thought was, okay, that's the way to do things. And I accepted. So again, there's difference between a personal imposition like Hiranyakasipu and a system, a culture that somehow get created and people have certain values. Of course, it didn't last long. So I don't feel much what you call parallels, or I don't feel much resentment.
Okay. In principle, I was trying to find principle of Even strong persons sometimes are controlled by not so right leadership. Okay, purport. The waters of the seas and oceans of this planet, of which we have experience, are salty, but other planets within the universe contains oceans of sugarcane juice, liquor, ghee, milk, and sweet water. The rivers are figuratively described as wives of the oceans and seas because they glide down to the ocean and seas as tributaries, like the wives attached to their husbands. Modern scientists attempt excursions to the planets, but they have no information to other planets. But they have no information of how many different types of oceans and seas there are within the universe. According to their experience, the moon is full of dust, but this does not explain how it gives us soothing rays from a distance of millions of miles. As far as we are concerned, we follow the authority of Vyasadeva and Shukdev Goswami, who have described the universal situation according to the Vedic literature. These authorities differ from modern scientists who conclude from their imperfect sensual experience that only this planet is inhabited by living beings, whereas the other planets are all vacant and full of dust. Sailadronibhir akridam sarvartusha gunandruma dadhara lokapalanam eka eva pritag gunan. The valleys between the mountains became fields of pleasure for Hiranyakashipu, by whose influence all the trees and plants produced fruits and flowers profusely in all seasons. The qualities of pouring water, drying, and burning, which are all qualities of three departmental heads of the universe, namely Indra, Vayu, and Agni, were all directed by Hiranyakashipu alone, without assistance from the demigods. I'm telling you, it all looks auspicious on the external. All season, if trees will give fruit, flowers, I can make garland all year. Parijata will grow. Then I can make garland for Krishna every day of the year.
So what's your point?
It looks auspicious under his control. It doesn't look like a bad thing.
Well, it's auspicious for him. He was enjoying all the gifts of nature, and it took from everybody else. Everybody was living in fear.
Okay. Yeah. It is said in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, Tejo Vari Mridham Yata Vinimaya. This material world is conducted by fire, water, and earth, which combine and take shape. Here it's mentioned that the three modes of nature, Pritag Gunan, act under the direction of different demigods. For example, King Indra is in charge of pouring water. The demigod Vayu controls the air and dries up the water, whereas the demigods controlling fire burns everything. Hiranyakashipu, however, by dint of his austere performance of mystic yoga, became so powerful that he alone took charge of everything without the assistance from the demigods. Saitam nirjita kakum ekarad vishayan priyan yatho pajosam gunjanyo Munjano natrapyad ajitendriya. In spite of achieving the power to control in all directions, and in spite of enjoying all types of dear sense gratification as much as possible, Hiranyakashipu was dissatisfied because instead of controlling his senses, he remained their servant. Whoa, that's a good one. You said the story of this Alexander and the dog, something. He went and conquered, he wanted to go and conquer everything. You remember that story you said?
There's a story that Alexander the Great from Greece had this great burning desire to conquer everything. So one day he went to a sage, and the sage had a little dog with him, and he was asking, "So what do you want to do, Alexander?" And he said, "I want to conquer Persia, and then I want to conquer this, and I want to conquer the whole world. And then what will happen? Then I'll be peaceful." And then in a sarcastic or humorous way, the sage told the dog, You see, he had to conquer the whole world before to become peaceful. We are sitting here, we're already peaceful.
Yeah, it's a good one. This Snehavati, this also you can screenshot this verse. It's also very applicable. Dissatisfied because of instead of controlling the senses, you're a servant of the senses. Purport. This is an example of Asuric life. Atheists can advance materially and create an extremely comfortable situation for the senses, but because they're controlled by the senses, they cannot be satisfied. This is the effect of modern civilization. Materialists are very much advanced in enjoying money and women, yet dissatisfaction prevails within human society because human society cannot be happy and peaceful without Krishna consciousness. As far as material sense gratification is concerned, materialists may go on increasing their enjoyment as far as they can imagine. But because people in such a material condition are servants of their senses, they cannot be satisfied. Hiranyakasipu is a vivid example of this dissatisfied state of humanity. It's a good one.
Can I just ask something, if that's okay? You said at the some time ago that everybody in every planetary system was praying, because this demon had come along. In a weird kind of way, was this a ploy as well? Ploy is maybe not the right word, but in times of hardship, people turn more to divinity. So on some huge intergalactic planetary system, was this also, I'm going to use the word ploy, but it's not the right word, to get every single being that had maybe started to turn away or was not on the path as much, because in their desperation, they were all turning to God and praying and saying, please, do something to help us. So was Hiranyakasipu like a vehicle to kind of help people get back onto the path because of the hardships that he was putting them all through, like every single being?
Wow, that's a very interesting question.
Well, I mean, we are reading the Bhagavatam, so this certainly, the Bhagavatam doesn't exactly give that type of, at least doesn't stress that perspective. It just says that, okay, he did the austerity, he got the credit, and now he's dominating and basically bossing over almost everyone in the universe. So yeah, definitely as a concomitant or corollary result, people might be more God conscious and started praying, or when we get rid of this guy. In fact, we will see, we read in the summary of the chapter that finally Vishnu will inform them this will not be forever. So yes, definitely, even in a very negative situation, there is always what you call a silver lining. So sometimes people who are very subjugated by very demoniac leaders, but there are some positive aspects. They may become more serious as devotees, or they may not have all the distractions that more opulent devotees may have, and so on. Yeah, so yeah, as a corollary benefit, definitely to have a ruler who is so heavy and so irreligious, people may kind of start thinking, well, we were much better when we could do our dharma freely, and they may start praying. So
Interesting.
Definitely there could be some element of that.
Why material desires, I mean, I'm just asking in terms of, sorry, this is a different question. I was just trying to post something, and then I saw this car. And then I was like, oh, it would be so nice to have this car. So when Maharajas come, I can bring them with this car to the house, like devotees when they come. So it's just a material desire, right? To want to have a nice car or something.
Well, if you want to do for service, it's different. It's depending on the motivation. If you just simply want to show off a car, But if you want to, you could say,
Serve the devotees.
uh,
Serve the devotees with
yeah,
right.
it's like if you see, say, jewelry, if you think, oh, this jewelry will be so nice on myself, that's kind of material. I mean, it's material. But if you say, oh, this jewelry will be so nice on the deities,
Yeah.
then obviously it's a different mood, completely different mood.
And what about, oh, if I wear this jewelry and go in front of Radha Madhava, and I can please Krishna by me dressing up, that one is also Krishna conscious.
If that's the mood.
Okay. 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 Any
Can I just ask a question? Can I just ask a question about that? What
Yeah.
about if it's like I know a lot of people live in austerity and try to be non-materialistic, but I also think there's kind of like a fine line in that. I've come across people in my own circle who it's almost kind of like they live with a poverty mindset and they're not doing anything to try and make their home nicer or more comfortable, and then other people within the household are also suffering. Is that kind of like a I don't know how to put it, it's not being materialistic, but it's this lack mindset where you have, but out of your fear of poverty, you're not spending even though you have it. And I'm not saying you have to spend it, but I'm talking like when your house is kind of falling apart. what would that come under? Because I'm facing this situation with somebody in my family right now, and it's absolutely driving me mad. It's like you're going and you're doing this for other people. You're happy to go and spend everything on others, yet in your own household, this isn't working, this is falling apart, this is whatever, and you're just happy to live like that, but you're also happy to subject other people to live like that. What kind of it's not this greed mindset, but it's also the other end of the spectrum, isn't it? Like it's not great, right? I'm just wondering, like, I know people who live non-materialistically and they've made a really conscious decision. I want to make a small footprint in, carbon footprint in life, whatever. But this is kind of like this isn't a conscious, this is like coming from a place of lack and fear that's making them behave like that. So how would you, I'm not quite sure what I'm asking, but I just want to, I want to kind of know, like, where would that be kind of classified along this spectrum of like absolute greed to absolute not needing anything in life? What kind of mindset does that come under?
See, everything can be done in the three gunas. In the guna, rajagunas, or tamaguna. So say managing a house. We have a property by karma, by Krishna's mercy, we have a house. Now, sattva guna means, of course, in a balanced way, we know our budget, and we want to create a sattvic environment. Sattvic environment, say, for instance, have a nice incense always burning, or some nice oil, essential oil that creates a nice atmosphere, maybe some music, and it's maybe not very great expense. It's just a question of managing what you have in a sattvic way to create a pleasant atmosphere, an atmosphere which is favorable for the mind, like eating good food. Okay, it may cost a little bit more because it's organic, it's not junk food. Okay, that's like sattva guna. You manage your finance, you manage your property in a way that you maintain, first of all, you maintain your property. Even materially, you maintain the value of your property. If the property falls apart, obviously you're not maintaining the property, even materially speaking. Then in Rajaguna, one is full of, is agitated by so many desires. Either he wants to show off, so he needs to have a huge plasma television because he wants to enjoy his eyes. I want to see more and more movies, Netflix, give me more. So he spends so much into this type of sense gratification, or he wants to show off, and therefore he wants to put some very showy type of thing, or repaints, not because he cares, but because he wants to show that he's rich and opulent. So that's Rajaguna, which is kind of easy to understand. Tamaguna, some people are really blocked by miserliness. they're really what in Sanskrit is called kripana. They can't spend anything. They're paralyzed by fear, and they make everybody miserable. So definitely that's like a tamas guna. It's destructive.
Okay,
You
that's
get
what I think is going on here, tamas guna then. Yeah.
so apparently those are symptoms of tamas guna, because there's like an incapacity, pathological incapacity to manage one's finance, to create a good atmosphere, or even the ignorance to maintain the value of your property, and instead the property is falling apart. So it sounds like a prominent influence of tamaguna.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I don't know how to help this person.
Here, time. It's time.
So time is up. Okay. So we reach what verse today? Complete.
We completed verse number 19. So
19 is
tomorrow-
complete.
Yeah. You want to do 20 now, or you'll continue from 20 tomorrow?
Well, we
20 is purports like we'll do tomorrow.
we can do tomorrow from 20.
20.
Okay. So thank you very much for staying with us in our study.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm not able to show my face today. Okay. Haribol, have a good day, Sujata.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hare Krishna Kulavati, Haribol Kushbu. Hare Krishna.
Hare